So Magnus, I'm going to say hi to all of our haters who are probably watching this and are ready to clip it up. And,
you're welcome
hey
for
guys,
6 more months of content.
Hashtag Fash Fam.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can eat a bag of Richards. Okay, so Magnus, a few days ago, your government,
your government, Magnus,
your
fault.
Your government came after you. They raided your apartment. The police raided your apartment, and we can pull up the tweet, but we've already kind of gone over it. But we wanted to hear your story because we don't know exactly what happened and why you were raided. So just give us the gist of what happened that day.
Okay, so I was at work, just kind of doing my normal thing, and my neighbor, which is one of the best sweethearts in the entire world, she texts me and she's like, "Hey, by the way, the cops are at your house." And then she's like, "Well, the cops are in your house." So I'm sitting there at work like, that's weird. Like you think if they had like a warrant for my arrest or something, they just come and grab me at work, or I was just confused. So I wasn't rushing to go home to get arrested. So I just kind of figured I would finish work and then I would go home. And then my neighbor texted me and said that they had left, that they were only in my apartment for about 12 minutes, that it was 4 uniformed officers, 1 plainclothes officer, and one unidentified woman sitting in an unmarked car. So I'm like, that's weird. And I go and I walk up and I live stream this too, just in case I was coming home to get arrested. Like I wanted to be live. So I live streamed this by channel, and I walked up and that door right there is propped closed because the hinge is all blown out. And my screen door is literally holding on by a single screw. So that's fun. I went in the house and a bunch of stuff was moved around. My rifle was taken out of my rifle case and broken down and then put back together. All of my things that were in my rifle case were laid out on my desk, and nothing else was missing. Nothing else was screwed with. I searched all over to see if anything got left. I didn't find anything that got left. So I was like, that's weird. I didn't really know what to make of that. Like I expect to get raided in the middle of the night and arrested, but not this. You figured they'd take something or screw with something. So then I called my local police department about 2 days ago now. And they told me they had no record of police ever being called to my house. So I called the county sheriff's department. They said they had no record of police being called to my house. I called the state troopers, no record of anyone being at my house. So I have a lawyer and I'm going to try to figure this out. But yeah, right now I have no idea why they were in my house or anything. And then the other part of this story is the next day, he's asked until the legal side of it's kind of figured out to be a little more quiet about it, but I can talk about the vague details. Another one of our guys got hit while he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital for treatment for a condition he has, and the FBI came up and showed him a warrant and told him that they were going through his house right now. And this guy is like even more tame than I am. He doesn't do any on the ground activism or anything. He's just like shares memes on Twitter. And they kicked his door in and apparently like took his computer and a bunch of other stuff, and he has no idea why. And then there was another individual just a day ago that got visited by the FBI. And then obviously, the news that just broke a couple hours ago of John McAfee didn't kill himself. So that was another thing that happened. So there just seems to be like this giant spread of stuff that's happening really quick all at once.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to play the video of when you came home. Magnus, is there any pictures of the cops going into your house? Did your neighbors take any pictures and whatnot to make sure that we can show that they were there and stuff? But first, let's take this. Just describe what's going on. I guess this is the video of you coming home, correct?
Yeah, this is
you got
my
a red
immediate
thing in your
neighbor.
hand.
No, that's
right.
my neighbor.
Oh, this is your neighbor. All right, so let's play this real quick.
In a car, he was driving a car, and it was somebody on the side. It looked like a female on the side. I couldn't really tell if the car was black or gray because of the dirt on it or whatever, so I couldn't really tell. See, the police is right here, and then
how many cops were with him? 2 cars, 1 car?
Two SUVs, yeah.
Oh boy.
One set here, the other set on the other side of the red car there. And then his car was on the other side of the police car. There was somebody else in this car. I'm not sure, like I said, if the car was black or light blue, because it could have looked like it was dusty or dirty or something like that. I couldn't really see because of the glare.
Oh, SUV too, though? The car?
Looked like a regular car, small, medium.
Grocery getter?
Huh?
Just like a grocery getter?
Yeah, something like that. And yeah. So yeah, you don't know who that is?
No idea.
Shut up.
No idea. And the landlord like hasn't contacted me, or they have keys and stuff like that. So like, why would the cop?
It wasn't nobody from the. It wasn't like Junior or none of those.
Yeah,
people.
no.
It was a stocky guy. He pulled out some kind of a paper. He went to his car. He grabbed his paper and came back downstairs. He showed the cop whatever. They didn't boom the door. At least I couldn't hear that. So the cops was like, "Please," and they went on.
My latch on my door is screwed up, and my screen door is all fucked up.
Oh, and you don't know who that is.
Nope. I mean,
That's
they
good
didn't. Nothing's like a bunch of stuff in my house is like moved around, like not a lot of stuff, but there's nothing missing. At least I only looked for like a second. I haven't dug around. I'm gonna go through like all my.
But if you're not in any trouble from the police, I'd ask the police.
Yeah.
That's breaking and entering.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it was like a wrong house thing or like what. I have no idea. But
That's Magnus coming home to not know what the hell was frigging going on. So go ahead, fam.
Okay, so was there any sign that this was the FBI or a higher department?
I mean, besides those two plainclothes people, which like they could be a detective maybe, or they could be like a friend,
Right.
who knows? There's nothing. Like there wasn't a warrant left on my door. There was no paperwork left in the house, and like, obviously you can't just call the FBI and be like, "Hey, were you in my house?" So right now, I'm just leaving it up to my lawyer to try to like dig around and figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
It's funny that this is just coming out right after Biden's domestic terror,
Yeah.
freaking bill or whatnot. I mean, obviously you connect the dots, and this is really scary. I mean, we were just talking, we were looking over a sanctions hearing and saying, wow, how scary that is, the rhetoric. But this is even more scarier right now. What are you doing to combat this, Magnus? Because obviously you don't know who it is yet. We can assume it's the FBI. But who knows if they're going to constantly be coming to your place or your place of
They're
work?
obviously watching him.
Yeah, I mean, their obviously eyes are on you. So what are you going to do to combat this?
Yeah, and I mean, stuff like this isn't even unprecedented. If you talk to like Susie from like the whole Assange campaign, and then there's been a few historical cases in the last couple years of the FBI going after people and like rooting through their garbage in the middle of the night and like going in and out of their house like randomly just to like harass people and drive people crazy to try to get them to like either slip up or become informants. So it's definitely not above them that they could just be fucking with me, that they could have just booted my door to be like, "Hey, just so you know," because like I live in a very isolated area. There's no street cameras, there's no nothing. I have one neighbor, so they could easily kind of do this stuff. But right now, I'm just waiting on a bug sweeper that's getting mailed to me to go through my house to see if they left anything. And other than that, I guess just get cameras on the house and wait and see if they come back. I mean, I've obviously removed myself from like any kind of chats with other people and like wiped my phone and toasted my hard drive on my computer and did like everything I could to make sure that they're not screwing with me. But otherwise, what can you do? Like that's the kind of the question. What can you do when they target you?
It's scary, and it's not a coincidence that one of your friends got hit in the hospital. I'm sorry, fam.
Yeah, no, and this is like we mentioned, the Biden's the DNI files released by the government, like on who is going to be a domestic terrorist. It's literally everybody, like animal rights activists, militia groups, well, anybody that's anti-government or anti-capitalist, libertarians, anybody. Like, it's just ridiculous.
The abortion one cracks me up because it's like, are you too pro-abortion or too anti-abortion? Straight to jail. Like, like it's ridiculous.
Don't even talk about it, I guess.
Veganism.
Yeah, animal rights, cruelty, like if you think hurting animals, perceived hurt of animals is like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God. But you put up this whole thing, and I don't have it with me, but the Batman comic, and then you've put up other things. You said that Law and Order has mentioned you. Tell us how many comics and shows have literally portrayed you, because I am baffled by this. This is crazy to me.
Okay, so the first people that did it was South Park, and this was kind of more like a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing of their episode about January 6th, where it has like all of the rednecks sitting in a basement planning to storm the Capitol. There's a bunch of guys in the background that are wearing Hawaiian shirts. So it's like that was the first reference. And as people that were in DC, I'm sure you can protest, there wasn't people running around DC with Hawaiian shirts on January 6th. So that was kind of the first element of slander. And then after that, Law and Order did an episode where it was both against us and Antifa, where like the whole plot was like people were setting off car bombs at protests, and they were trying to figure out whether it was Antifa or Boogaloos. And it's hilarious because there's such a memeable line in that episode where they're going through forensics, and they're like, well, this doesn't look like an improvised Boogaloo device, which is the funniest fucking thing I'd ever heard. And then January 1st, DC Comics released a comic where that was about us, where we were apparently a far right racist anarchists, which, by the way, if you've noticed how many times they've tried to tie anarchism and racism together over the last couple of years, when they were calling all the Trump supporters in the Capitol racist anarchists and like white supremacist anarchists and all these, they combining these terms, and that we had kidnapped Batman and kidnapped police, and that we were all high on meth and ex-military and all this other shit, and we used to work for the Penguin, and just a bunch of cringe propaganda. And it's like,
I knew you used to work for the Penguin. There was
makes
something about you, Magnus. You son of a beeswax.
And honestly, props to the DC people, because they're the ones that actually spelt the name right for the first time. So like, obviously that guy was well intentioned, but also like in that very comic, this is peak shit lib. They refer to people that are anti-police or people that defend themselves from the police as fascists, which is hilarious. Like, I don't even know how you put your brain. How dare you oppose the cops, you fascist?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the situation, kind of just really quickly. What has been your treatment, from the online left versus the online right? Just kind of curious, really, to tell you the truth, because I've been like, I don't know if you saw this. I made a comment about the whole Sam Cedar thing, and me and Matt Binder got into it. We're going to have a debate next week, but we're going to also talk about the Boogaloo Boys pretty much. So tell us your treatment when it comes to the online left versus the online right, because when I was with you in DC, I was able to get this whole Boogaloo 101 kind of like, what's going on. And you explained so much, and it was so intriguing to me. But go ahead and tell us about your treatment.
It's actually identical, which is the best part of like the right makes up like a whole bunch of things of like the current conspiracy is that the entire Boogaloo movement we're rebranded Antifa that's trying to infiltrate the right. So where have you heard that one before? So like the conspiracies mirror each other of like of just that we're bad actors, that we don't believe anything that we believe, that we're totally fake, that like we're some form of operation from the FBI or the right wing or the left wing. Like it's wild conspiracies, which it's almost flattering that they think that we're like as powerful and competent as they try to sell us as, when in reality we're like just like a bunch of dorks, which is great, which is what I love about the movement. So it's hilarious of that. Like, I'm simultaneously some George Soros funded Chinese anti-fascist operation, and then also some like elaborate Lincoln Project thing to tear down Trump, while also being some fascist attempting to infiltrate the left-wing progressive movements, and also a terrorist trying to get BLM labeled an extremist organization. Like, there's the conspiracies go in like every single direction. It's
cover
so
all
crazy.
bases.
Yeah. When you tell the truth, or when you're very independent minded and you don't play team sports, everybody hates you. And like, we've experienced that too. And it's like, I am on the left, and I always say that, but I'm also very anti-authoritarian. And there is a segment of the left that is extremely authoritarian. There's a segment on the right that's extremely authoritarian. So I think like the divides right now are more anarchists versus authoritarian. And I say anarchists because most people don't understand the term anarchy and what it means. They have this idea that it means lawlessness and just everybody running around crazy with a machete. Like that's what they think of when they see anarchy, and that's not what it is. And so like it's just interesting to me because I've been seeing so many articles against Boogaloo Boys, but particularly focusing on you. You know, the enemy of my enemy is still a fascist, and all these articles like naming you. And I just want to reiterate, Magnus, from what I've seen on the ground, from ourselves, from Ford Fisher, and from you, the Boogaloo Boys aren't a monolith, and they keep bringing up specific people that are, you know, said something or other positive of a Proud Boy or whatever, and they keep saying, see, the Boogaloo Boys are this, and they have chats of whatever else that they got, and they use this to say, see, these people, don't trust them. Tell the audience once again, the Boogaloo Boys, right? Are they a monolithic group?
No, not at all. And they try to paint me as some kind of leader of it or something. And I have no control over these men or especially not the women. I definitely have no control over them. They're going to do whatever they want to do. And it's just ridiculous to me that like, I had this whole tweet where I'm like, well, here's all of the documentation and evidence that every single main public account with 30,000 followers on Facebook, with like 10,000 people in the Discord and everything, of us explicitly getting into fights with people, yelling at people that they're not welcome to bring bigotry in here. They're not welcome to do anything stupid, that we don't accept racism. I can show all these posts and then they'll go, well, oh, that's just words. So then it's like, okay, well, then I show, which you've showed on the show, I show just, you know, hundreds of hours of documentation of us like putting what we believe into practice on the ground and video evidence of it. And then they say, well, that's just performative. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's my evidence, so what's your evidence of that we're this giant racist monolith? And it's like, well, here's a leaked Discord chat between 4 dudes on the West Coast a year and a half ago. And it's like, okay, I thought those were just words. And they're like, well, my words matter. Your words don't mean anything. It's like, okay, I see where we're going on here. Like, this is just militant tribalism. And like the movement's so diverse to where like you have like homesteader type dudes that will never go to an event and don't even really care about politics. It's more of like a kind of, I guess, social club for them. And then you have other people that exclusively go to right-wing events, whether it be like Second Amendment thing or free speech or lockdown events. And then you have people on the other side that only go to Black Lives Matter protests or only go to anti-ICE protests. Like it's a big spread. And that's the whole reason a lot of people got attracted to this movement, was that ability to be like, hey, like we have all this in common, but I'm going to do this over here and you're not going to get mad at me for doing that. And I'm going to do this over here and we can just be cool. We can fight the same kind of issues in parallel directions and not step on each other's toes, which, you know, in 2020 and 2021, that's not welcome. You know, like nobody can fight parallel. Everyone has to be on the same track, you know? So it's always just been like ridiculous to me. And I brought up the very first conversation I ever had of like, if they pull some random dude off a Telegram chat that's saying like some racist things, it's like, well, I didn't know about that guy. I have no way to know about that guy because we were banned off of everything. You know, like I honestly go to like the anti-fascist Twitter accounts that are always like, they're so good at researching and everything. And I'm like, just help me, dude. Like, help me find these people. Like you could just send this directly to me and I'll give you all the information you need to know on like people that are actually legit scumbags. Like instead of using it as a gotcha against me of like, oh, we found this one asshole that runs a page on some obscure website with 15 people that subscribe to it, and then throwing it all over Twitter and be like, yeah, it's throwing all over Twitter and be like, see proof that they're bad people. It's like, no, just tell me that person exists. And then I'll have the entire Twitter of everyone in the movement be like, yeah, fuck that guy. Like that's all it takes, you know?
When you were explaining me to stuff to me about the Boogaloo Boys, and we were talking about the Northwest, like like Washington, the Boogaloo Boys there, and you said you have no clue what they're doing. There's no attachment to them whatsoever. So is it okay to say that you're not a monolithic group, but you know, people still claim that you have like one basic founding ideology that you follow, and that's the problem with the Boogaloo Boys? Is there one basic a founding ideology that you guys all follow, which makes you guys bad?
I mean, not really. Like the pure basic thing that started all of this was just like militant anti-government. Like it's just no theory, all praxis anarchism is what I've kind of, described it as. It's like, it's just a bunch of people that were just sick and fed up of the government. And in the beginning, that's blew up into like a million different directions, to where you had people like, before we kind of consolidated onto the more anarchist side. In the beginning, you did have like right-wing dudes that thought fighting the government meant supporting Trump. And then you also had like way more progressive people that thought fighting the government was supporting Bernie Sanders. And then, yes, I admit it fully and openly, there was a lot of people that were in the very beginning of this had like kind of I wouldn't say like white supremacist, but kind of the like Charlie Kirk, like nationalism thing, like the racial undertones, but not like explicitly like neo-Nazi shit. There was people in the beginning that had that. And it took a lot of months of banning people and getting into giant arguments and multiple splits into the movement before most of those people fucked off. Because in the beginning, it was literally just a bunch of guys got together on the internet and were like, hey, we should like fight the government. And that attracted all sorts of people to that. I mean, like, there was even, like Republican conservative types that thought they were on the right side of the history in the movement. And it took like a while for us in the beginning, the bigger people, to be like, no, this is what we mean by that. Like, we don't mean fight the government, elect a Republican. Like, that's not what we're talking about. And there was giant shitstorms about it. I even, I'm going to post some stuff later of like people that were names that might surprise you, that were kind of bigger in the whole like anti-SJW Twitter thing that happened like a year or two ago, that whole culture, that were like, I thought the Boogaloo Boys were so cool, but I go on there and it's just a bunch of cringe racial politics and blah, blah, blah. And they're supporting BLM, and they're throwing giant temper tantrums because they thought we were some based right-wing group, which we never were. So it's like,
yeah. Well, that's still the label.
I compare it a lot to Antifa, of how Antifa, what they're going through right now, of how like it was like a far left, like militant anti-government group, and then up towards the election, you had a bunch of college shit libs throw on black hoodies and think they were fighting the power, and now they're having to deal with the fact that like their popularity in the media brought a bunch of people who didn't understand what the whole fucking point was, and now you're gonna have to deal with that.
And they got co-opted. Yeah. The FBI is infiltrating all these movements, to be honest. And as we wrap this up, Magnus, two things I want to go over. One is the this sheet that came out to The Intercept, this trainee guide for the military, pretty much assessing that socialists, anarchists, and neo-Nazis represent terrorist ideological category. And they're asking them, which terrorist ideology category do these people represent? They're all these people that have been fighting against each other. You got the Bernie left progressives that think every 75 million Trump supporters are neo-Nazis. You got the anarchists, the types like Boogaloo Boys. You got all these people. Then you got the Proud Boys. All these people are being lumped into one category and being named terrorists. And instead, they're fighting amongst each other as the state agencies are doing their bidding, as classifying all of us as potential DVEs. Your thoughts on that, and your thoughts on I heard you have an upcoming parade march.
Yeah. So it's really interesting too, because something I've noticed, and as an anarchist, I have to keep bringing this up to people, is that during the 4 years in Trump, when they were talking about radical groups, they never once used the word anarchist. Because like, obviously, like when it comes to the media and stuff like that, they didn't want to come out really hard against like the anti-fascist groups or like black anarchists that might be in like the Panther Party or something like that. So they never used that word. But the moment Biden got elected, every single one of these anarchists. And it's like, hey, dude, like all those people in Portland that were rioting against Trump, that's you. Because a lot of you are anarchists. Like, and they never included that until Biden got elected, because you're no longer useful to the establishment, and now they're going to come and kill you.
Oh yeah,
like that's how they're coming across.
That's what it is.
And I posted a video that my friend leaked out of a military training. He's in the Navy and he's an officer, and he sent me this, and it was a picture of domestic extremism in America. It was like a PowerPoint, and they had a picture of a bunch of different groups, and it had actual neo-Nazis, it had Black Panthers, it had anti-fascists, it had I forget their name, but it's a LGBT group on there. It had like Pepe, it had like the 3%ers, it had Oath Keepers. So it's like literally everybody. literally everybody is on this. And it's like, this is the domestic terrorists in America. And it's like, oh, so every single group that was protesting over the last year, that's what you're saying. And that's top brass military. That's what they're teaching them. So it's like, I would love to see if we could get a quote unquote good cop to like leak what they're training the police right now of like what to look for and what are the extremist groups, you know? So it's crazy, but I mean, it's nothing new to people like us. Like, you know, we've all been talking, I know you guys have been talking about how they view the world in reality. They're just finally admitting to it, which, you know, is refreshing in a way. But, and then, September 11th, we announced that we're trying to do a post-partisan peace march in Washington, D.C. We're calling it End the Damn Wars March. And we're essentially just trying to recreate what happened in 2003, where you had a whole bunch of progressive groups and the Green Party and the Libertarian Party and even some conservatives all marched in DC in a giant like single group to like try to end everything that was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya, and like the Ron Paul movement and Occupy and all these kind of groups were together in on it. And you've noticed there hasn't been anything like that since 2003. Right. There's been no big anti-war anything since like 2003.
Yeah.
So we're just trying. We're trying to recreate that, and we picked a perfect time because it's either 20th or 30th anniversary of September 11th. So it's kind of gonna the recurring. Yeah, the recurring theme of be like, hey guys, this is how long we've been doing this, and it's still not working. Okay, maybe we could stop. Yeah, crazy idea.
Yeah, I think it's the 21st anniversary of Afghanistan. They're 21 years in Afghanistan, I think, too, as well. September 11th is the day that they're supposed to pull out. I don't know how people really bought this. They were supposed to be pulled out in March, and he extended the date, and everybody was like, "Oh, look at Biden, he's going to be a champion to pull people out of Afghanistan." It's like they were already set to come out.
Talking about this. Yeah. Nobody's talking about this, but the Taliban's been attacking the Afghan military. They broke the ceasefire because we broke the agreement.
Oh yeah.
Like
Exactly.
there's you can look up videos of Afghan National Guards surrendering in the thousands to the Taliban because the Taliban are pissed off because Joe Biden fucking pushed back our withdrawal to have a symbolic victory on September 11th, I guess. But in reality, it was probably just to bait the Taliban into attacking to excuse staying there for another 20 fucking years.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, they want to manufacture consent. They extended the time. Now the Taliban's going to strike. They're going to say, look what they're doing. And they're going to probably commit more troops to a guy who was the first to push for the surge in Afghanistan to say, I'm the guy who was against it. Like, no, it's not. We have receipts, asshole. You were for it before you were against it. So it's just crazy. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck out there. In your
Please
September
take care of yourself
March.
too. And just keep us posted on anytime that happens. We will have you on to discuss. We have no problem. And I'm glad that you're trying to work on this whole unity thing. They can call it whatever they want, red, brown, whatever the hell it is. Anti-imperialism is something we need to all stand against, and the working class needs to unite. And if you're part of the working class, I'm not going to ask you what is the dynamics of your political. What do you believe in? Are you for Medicare for all? If you're not, like, get away. And that's the thing. Like even with Medicare for all, while I fight for it and I'm so for it, and I'm going to attend marches for it and all of the stuff, it's not going to change who controls things. And that's what we have to look up too. We have to understand that the state agencies are in control. So Magnus, thank you for coming on. Take care of yourself. We appreciate you.
And if you're wondering what the police officers are looking for now, Magnus, they're looking for guys who wear Hawaiian shirts, long beards, carrying rainbow flags with guns. So that's what they're up to today. So watch yourself out there, pal.
That's what it is. I appreciate you, fam. You'll have a good one.
We love you, Magnus. You have a great one. Our friend Magnus.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. It's not fair that everybody's getting raided now. I mean, he's one of many people, like you mentioned. It's scary times. I don't think people realize how scary times it is.
Fam, it's okay to raid a fascist's house because that's what they're doing is wrong. So you shouldn't be standing or supporting right-wing militias, far-right militias here in America.
Yeah, whatever, fam.
Yeah.